Hey, what's going on, guys? Garden here, and welcome! So, we are just leaving Balderston Motorcycles. I went to go and get a new screen for Dennis, rather, from Wheels, and while I was here, Dad's toying with the idea of a GS or a XR, S1000 XR, so I thought I'd pop by, see what they got used, and also grab some catalogues for him, because I'm nice like that, and I like spending time in motorbike dealers. But what I wanted to talk about, and it's kind of topical I suppose while I'm leaving a motorcycle dealers, is the decline in the motorbike industry. I was watching a video while during winter which basically said that the reason that the motorbike industry is in decline is because there's not enough influx of young people. And I will completely agree with that. However, the person that made the video, I'll pop a link to it, I can't remember his name, put a link in the description, basically said it was down to the fact that kids today would rather play video games or on their phones or on their tablets than get outside and ride a motorbike. And I must say, I completely disagree with that. There is definitely a smaller influx of younger riders compared to, you know, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, and of course the noughties. I would say there are a couple of points. The first point is the fact that when a lot of adults now, you know, in their 50s, maybe their 60s and things, started riding, so through, I would say, the 70s, the 80s and the 90s, well, 70s and 80s particularly, bikes thrived because, and earlier decades than that, because cars were quite expensive. The amount of sort of two-car households, there weren't as many. It was only really in the 90s where it started kicking off with that. So, you know, cars were much more expensive and bikes were seen as a cheaper form of transport. So therefore, younger people went and got their bike tests because it meant freedom. In the same way that a 17-year-old now will go and get his car test. But the difference is, nowadays, cars are so cheap to get. You know, you can buy a roadworthy car. I bought one for 500 quid. And it kept going with no problems for years. It was actually quite a good car. It was a little diesel Peugeot. Anyway, getting sidetracked here. Cars are now, you know, cheaper to get into than bikes as a form of transport. And I think that's made a huge difference in terms of the amount of people riding bikes. So the young blood isn't getting in. The second reason I would say is because the cost of actually getting your bike license. So when you're 17, you can drive a car, you can do your test, you pay your theory test and your actual test and lessons. Now, if you're like me, what I did was I bought a cheap car, had my mum sort of teach me the basics, then I'll go off and have a lesson, come back and practice it. So I have 4 lessons when I pass my test, having never driven a car before. You know, I learnt on an airfield about engine braking and gears and acceleration and all sorts of things. So I did it very cheaply. With bikes, you can't do that. You have your theory test and your car test for driving a car, but with bikes, especially in the UK, it's all age restricted. So if you're 17, you can get a 125. Then, is it 19 you can do your A2? So, 17 to 19, you know, you're going to have to redo your theory, which is another test. Or if you've just been riding on a CVT, you have to do your theory. Then you have to do your Module 1, Module 2. Then you get your full license at, is it 23, 24? Again, you have to redo your theory because it will have expired, your Module 1 and your Module 2. So a lot more tests. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because it's not. It's, you know, bikes are more dangerous. I think you need a higher degree of training. However, I would say the car test is too easy. But that's just my personal opinion. So, it's much more expensive and it doesn't encourage younger people to choose bikes over cars. The only advantage to bikes is you can ride a moped at 16, which you can't drive a car. The only way that it breaks out roughly easy is if you're over 24 and you go in and you do your full test. But if you're 24 and you haven't got formal transport, either you don't need one because you live in a city, yeah, or you're motorcycling for fun and you've already got your car license to get you to work. So it's a really difficult one, isn't it? You know, there's not a lot to encourage younger people to come into the world of bikes. Third reason, parents. Oh yes, parents. So lots of people's parents used to ride motorbikes when they were younger because it was an affordable form of transport for them. However, my parents, for example me, and I know a lot of people's parents are, even though my dad used to have a bike and he went around Australia on a bike, they still go, oh no, you can't have a motorcycle, it's too dangerous, you're not allowed one. And it was only basically when I turned to dad and said, I need to get a motorbike, or rather, I want to, here's why, put it lethargically to him. I was 23, and I still had an argument about it, and I managed to get it. But the problem is the fact that you've got older generations telling their children that they can't ride bikes because it's too dangerous, despite them having bikes in the past. But that's not encouraging young blood to come through, because then they'll grow up going, oh no, can't do that, it's too dangerous, oh no. And everyone all the younger people to me that don't ride bikes turn around and go, it's not really dangerous. Well, yeah, it is, but it's not. I'm still alive, touch wood. It's not like the older generations are encouraging it again. So with each generation that goes past, you're losing young blood coming into the motorbike world. And Jesus Christ, if my mum knew I had a motorbike, she'd probably roll over in a grave. Well, I say that, but my brother had one hidden in Africa for about 6 months. He didn't tell mum. And then she saw some picture. One of his Africa friends came back and asked him about a motorbike trip. Mum was like, oh no, you're not having a motorbike. He's like, well, actually I've had one for quite a while. It doesn't encourage younger generations, so no wonder that numbers are in decline. So the other reason that I would say the motorcycle industry is in decline is the fact it's the motorcycle industry itself. I'm going, what? If you walk into a car dealership within, a few minutes, you have got a salesman humping your leg to try and get you to buy a car. Now, I've been lucky. I quite like window shopping, as it were. Unfortunately, I get rather strong intentions. So I go into quite a few dealerships, and that is the first Balderston BMW, which I've just walked out of to get a catalogue for Dad. It's the first time I have walked into a dealership without having to actively search for a salesman to ask some questions. Literally within 30, he was stood on the stairs, and I didn't even realise he was a salesman. And I wandered in and looked at next hour. I thought, well, I'll go upstairs and see if they got some catalogues. I can't see any on the walls. And as I passed, he said, hi, how are you? What a lovely day, blah, blah, blah. Is there anything I can help you with? Brilliant. The art of a salesman in the bike industry is completely lost. I've pretty much been to every single motorcycle dealer in my area. I've been to 3 different Kawasaki dealers. I've been to Triumph dealers. I've been to Yamaha dealers. I've been to lots of little dealers. And Balderston's the first time in 2 years that I've walked into a dealership. Someone actually came up to me and went, hi, how are you? Can I help you? Not, oh, you're here to buy a bike, here's what you want. I explained I was just after a catalogue, and the man couldn't have been more helpful if he tried. He really couldn't have done. And that's part of the problem with the motorcycle industry. Is the salesman just think, oh, well, it's a motorbike, everyone will want to buy one, everyone that walks through the door. And they don't really care. Yeah, if you go into a car dealer, and I've done work experience in a car dealer, they are taught techniques to pick up the difference between time wasters and genuine people. But even the time wasters, they're told, give them a little bit of time, maybe you can sort of, just do something with them. But bike dealers don't do that. They just sit there drinking their cups of coffee. And I'm sorry if this sounds like a rant against dealers. There are honest dealers out there, but their sales suck. Like, I walked into one dealer when I was thinking of buying Kawasaki, and I stood there for half an hour trying to find someone to come and talk to. And I literally had a list in my hand which had all the optional extras, the price of what I wanted, the finance plan. I was the easiest sale imaginable. In the end, I just walked out because the salesman was an absolute arsehole when I eventually found one. So they're just throwing away sales. This isn't helped by the fact that marketing campaigns for motorcycle companies are absolutely non-existent. You never see on TV, you know, the adverts for the new Suzukis or the new Kawasaki's or the BMWs. You never see adverts for them. The only time you see an advert for a motorcycle is if you're watching like the MotoGP or something actually to do with bikes. So there's nothing to, you know, apart from sort of motor vloggers, things like that, there's nothing piquing someone's interest about getting a bike. You know, you might see an advert on TV of, you know, a really handsome man, you know, riding around exploring or getting his knee down or whatever. You don't see that, or amazing places you can visit, or even just highlighting, you know, the fact that they're more economical, they're kinder to the planet, they cut down on your commute. You just don't see it. Yet car adverts are everywhere. You see them on billboards, you see them just as adverts on the TV. Car adverts are everywhere. And the advertising for the motorcycle industry, again, it's that same sort of presumption that, oh, well, everyone wants a motorbike. There's got to be something that sparks that curiosity for people to go out of the norm. Anyway, I'm sorry if it's been a long video, you know, or maybe sound a bit like a rant, but it really annoyed me, the fact that some bloke was just going, it's these young kids, they want to play their computer games. And I'm not saying the world is against young people. The people that really have a desire to want to learn to ride a bike will do it. But the motorcycle industry doesn't help itself, which is why it's in decline. And it's a shame, you know, to think, could they potentially end? More and more firms are shutting down. It's only the big firms that are surviving, but they're not getting the young blood in. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. It's something that I really do believe in. And so let me know in the comments down below what your ideas are as to why it's in decline. Or even if you don't think it's in decline. But let's face it, you'd be wrong because all the statistics prove that. But yeah, let me know in the comments section down below. Thank you ever so much for watching, and take care.